My guest tonight has etched his way into the record books through hard work, dedication, and a drive that helped him never give up. His early days were spent beating a path between his apartment above a service station and the local baseball diamond. After becoming a Major League Baseball manager, Anthony La Russa crisscrossed the country, eventually becoming a three-time World Series champion with two different teams, and one of only two men to do it in both leagues. He was also named Major League Baseball's Manager of the Year 4 different times. But before becoming number 3 on baseball's all-time win list, did you know he started at shortstop in the major leagues at the age of 18? He played one game for the Chicago Cubs as a pinch runner and graduated from Florida State University Law School and passed the bar while managing in the major leagues. Tonight, we'll learn what makes this undeniable icon who he is, a man who once said, even when you have 3 strikes, you're still not out. There's always something else you can do. Please welcome 2014 Major League Baseball Hall of Fame inductee, Tony La Russa. Thank you. Thank you. Let's just hope they're doing that when we're finished.
Can I ask a question? Can we start with a question?
Yeah, we can start with a question.
I was told tie. The host got no tie.
What a dick.
You know, that was a popular description of me when I was a manager.
Online, to your face,
Yeah.
behind your back. All right, let's start at the beginning. I am fascinated by your early years. And I don't think that people who even know you pretty well know your background in the great city of Tampa, Florida, Ybor City, to be more specific. Take us back to what it was like to grow up in Tampa at that time.
My mother's Spanish, my dad's Italian. And when I was born, we moved into a house with my mother's sister, her husband, her 2 sons, which were like my brothers. And the first language that I spoke well until I was 6 years old was Spanish, because they knew Spanish, the sisters, my mother and her sister, and my dad knew Spanish. And it wasn't until I went to school, elementary school, that they taught me English. And the first day that I went to school, I guess Ybor Elementary, they said, you can dress as you like, and that's the way that I dressed.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's from school. That's not like a Little League picture or anything.
No, that's the first day I went to school. I went there, hey, I'm a ball player.
I think that's really revealing, because baseball to you was it. In your family growing up, your father, what you learned in and around Tampa and Ybor City, it was baseball, man. That's where it began and ended, right?
Well, I remember that baseball, had that fascination, and we had a large extended family on both the La Russa side, my dad, the Cuervo side, my mom. And invariably, when we got together, no matter what time of the year, it was baseball, baseball, baseball. That was a discussion. So I can remember all of my dad's friends, his brothers, all told me that my dad could have been a major leaguer. He loved the game, and he was a catcher. And when he was growing up, his father did not believe in that dream and required him to do errands. They had cows. They would walk to the lot there where they would munch on food, and they would use the cows for milk and so forth. So my father ran errands, and whenever he wanted to go play ball, his dad required him to do the errands first. As a consequence, he never really had the dream. So when he had his son, there wasn't any opportunity he wasn't going to provide me, even to the point where, we were not well off, and I didn't have to work during the summer when school was out because he wanted me to play ball. And most of my growing up before we moved to West Tampa, we lived in a little apartment over a service station. And next to the service station, there was an alley that was all rocks. And when my dad would be working and I didn't have time to go to the park, my mother would take me into the alley and roll me ground balls. And I can remember that like it was yesterday, and that was by the hour. And I'd throw it back to her, and she wrote it to me. So it was baseball, baseball.
Were you a mama's boy? You know I was. Was she like the safe haven for you?
Actually, my father, when he was going to discipline you, it was direct, impactful, and quick. My mother was the one that I tried to avoid because it was, sit down, son, and he would come to lecture for like an hour about your responsibility to do this, and you're not doing that, and it was so painful. I feel like I was about that tall. I said, please, no more lectures, and I'd walk in late when I was a kid, you know, a high schooler, and the curfew was at midnight, and I'd come in at 1, and she'd be sitting at the table, and oh, man. You do that a few times, and you start learning to behave.
I love this picture we're going to show of you as a 9-year-old on a team of literally 12 and 13-year-olds in 1954 going to Cuba to play baseball.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you can pick me up, I'm there towards the top, right side. I think maybe my head grew into my ears a little bit, but it's still. Yeah, we had here the passion in our area for baseball. By that time, we had moved to West Tampa, and the West Tampa Optimist Club put together home and away with the Optimist Club in Cuba. So our first thing, we were going to go there to play. So rode the plane and scared to death. And the thing that I remember the most was I thought the Cubans cheated.
Because in your game, they cheated in your game?
Well, there's an age restriction, and the guys who were pitching against us were about 6'2" with mustaches.
And you're 9?
Yeah, I think I just turned 10. And the guy, I mean, he's reaching out, just letting it go from here to there. I mean, oh, man, you know, so I thought, this is not fair.
So those years roll on. You're introduced to a guy, Lou Piniella, a great Yankee, a great baseball man, and somebody you competed against as a kid during those years.
Had a great combination of competing and then playing with. Lou was one of the best, to this day, one of the best athletes that Tampa, Florida ever produced, baseball and basketball. We would play high school. He played for the private school, Jesuit, the Catholic school, and I played for the public school, Jefferson. We would play games, I don't know, 2 or 3 a year at this park called Cascade Park. Probably sat, I'm thinking 1,500, and all the seats would be taken. Down the left field line, it would be all jammed. People would be parked along the street. I mean, it was overflowing to watch our teams play. And, you know, it was a hot competition, you know. And
so what were your dreams as a kid? Are you willing to allow yourself to believe you are good enough to be in the big leagues?
I started to get an idea because I was always playing with guys older than myself. And when I was 15, I remember scouts, and we played in San Bernardino, California. That was where the World Series was. And I remember scouts coming up to me and saying, we're going to watch you, and which would have been my junior year. You know, at that time, scouts could come around and was getting a lot of attention. And I thought, well, you know, ended up having a real good senior year. And I thought, I'm going to sign. I didn't have any idea what was going to happen.
To the point where 1962, you're signed by the A's for $100,000 in a Bonneville.
62 Bonneville.
A 62 Bonneville.
The guy that Joe Bowman is the guy on the left. He was the chief scout, and he came down. Charlie Gassaway was the one next to him, and broke my heart. Later on, I found out he got fired, and told me he got fired because he signed me.
Oh, shut up, liar!
No, he did get fired.
He did get, but not because he signed you.
Well, I hope not, but I think there might have been some.
But when you sign for $100,000 in a 62 Bonneville by the A's, there are expectations. I know you well enough to know you take things very seriously. If you sign that kind of a deal, there's expectations now right on you to make sure that those people who signed you to that deal we showed in the picture didn't make a mistake. That's a lot of pressure for a kid.
It was pressure. There was a decision to make because I had gotten an offer, a scholarship offer from Florida State University. I had a legendary coach named Danny Litweiler. And my mother was very oriented towards education. And she did not think that going to play pro ball at the time. I was a young 17 when I signed. But I loved the game. My dad and I both wanted me to sign. the money was there. You know, I ended up making sure that my parents got their just rewards for some of the stuff they allowed me to do. But I remember signing, and I was ready to play. What I didn't understand was the maturity factor. And like I get asked a lot over the years, you know, should my son go to college or should he sign out of high school? And I said, you know, you got a decision to make. Some of it has to do how mature physically you are and mentally. And if you're not, going to college is a better way to go. For example, when I signed, 5 of the first 6 years that I played, things broke. You know, this broke, that went, this broke. And I think had I been stronger when I signed out of college, you know, then I'd have been physically able to withstand. I dislocated my shoulder by diving. So it wasn't a good move, but it was a move we made. There have been 3 shortstops in Major League history that started a game at age 18. 3. The answer is 2 pearls and a turd. So I was the first in the history, and I was not a pearl. I hit 250 as an 18-year-old. The other 2 were Robin and Alex Rodriguez. So here I am in the big leagues. I didn't belong there. Most of the guys were really good veterans, and they took care of me.
I hate this side of you.
Which side?
hate this side of you.
Being honest, you mean?
No. I hate the self-deprecating bullshit because you were a talented young player, right? And you got hurt. You tore up your shoulder messing around playing softball.
That's true.
And so you weren't right after that, yet you had the pressure from 62 signed in this big deal. There was a lot on you to try to make that right, and you were banging your head against the wall for a long time trying to make that right.
You know, I tore that tendon, so I went from a real good arm to a flipping second baseman. You know, dislocated shoulder, got hit, tore up my knee. I could have called it quits, but I love the game and I stayed with it. I played 10 more years. And actually the last 10 years, I was, you know, I'm sore, I'm still sore, but I really wasn't hurt. And thinking back later, I give myself credit for loving the game and being tough enough to hang in there. But the benefits was that I got to really learn a lot about what the game was all about. So it ended up being a real windfall for me. But the injury, I think I would have been a respectable major leaguer had I been able to throw like I did when I signed.
All the while early, you had made a commitment to your mother that you would finish what you started with regard to law school. And I want to ask you if that was more of a fallback in case the baseball thing didn't work out, or if it was just, I'm going to plow ahead and get this done, knowing that the baseball part was going to be there for you.
Neither. It's a promise that I made to my mother. You know, we had this discussion, college or baseball, and in fact, it wasn't just law school, it was the undergraduate school. And later on, when you're trying to figure out, when you look in the mirror and you say, well, who are you and what do you represent? And you should look in the mirror and like who you see. If you don't like it, fix it. Well, when I signed in '62, that winter, for 7 winters, even though I was doing instructional ball, I either went to school in the morning and played instructional ball, or I went to spring training and went to night classes. It took me 7 winters, and I got a degree at University of South Florida. Now, that was tough. And I did it because, I didn't have a crystal ball. I thought I was going to be a ball player. I'm a big leaguer, big star. I did it because I made that promise. I love education, but I don't love it that much. So later on, when I realized I wasn't fooling anybody with this underhand throw, and you can't be a sore arm infielder and play in the big leagues. So what else am I going to do? I thought, well, I love to read. I love to problem solve. My career is over. I'm going to be a manager.
What's that like to stand up in front of a team and straighten yourself up and say, okay, here we go, and you're in charge?
The first thing I thought about, I was a second baseman on a team that had Reggie, Dave Duncan, Raleigh Fingers, Joe Rudy, and we were playing a playoff game, and I had the same thing. And I woke up the morning of the playoff game. We were playing San Jose in Modesto. And I just, all of a sudden, I'm thinking, I'm traumatized. I says, you know, after all we've done, we tied them in the last weekend. I'm going to do something to lose this game and let everybody down. So I seriously considered calling in sick. Like for most of the morning, I'd say, you know, I say my back's hurting, you know, you can't check your back. I came this close to calling in sick. I said, I swear this is true. This is so dramatic, it sounds like Hollywood. But about noon, I just had this epiphany, you know, I said, you know, if you do that, how are you ever going to look at yourself? So I buckled it up, I went to the park, I mean, this is Hollywood, and I decided I was going to try my best. So everything I did that day, I used to play catch with Dave Duggan, did everything hard, you know, bam, bam, bam. I swear on my animals and my children. I got 3 hits. The score is 1-1 in the top of the 9th inning. We lost a flip, so we're the home visiting team, and we're home. I had a grand slam home run over the scoreboard. And the point of that, I'm serious. You know, if you gotta understand, I was taught. My dad would always tell me, you know, you can fool people, don't fool yourself. Don't ever fool yourself. That was like one of the Bible things. And I've lived with it. So when you're always self-evaluating, when I did that, I says, you know, I'll never be afraid again. So when I got the chance to manage, I says, hey, I'm not afraid. I may not be any good, but I'm not afraid. And then responsibility that came with it as a manager, and it was, you know, like the perfect coming together.
How would you describe your managerial style when you took over with the White Sox?
It's establishing respect and trust. They have to respect and trust you, and you have to show them you care. So that started from day one, and it continued.
That was at the end of the 70s, and you turned the White Sox into a playoff team not that long after.
All by myself, I did that, just all me.
Well,
once you start, you always wonder, can you take a club from the first day of spring training and play in October? When it happened in '83, to this day, with all the great things that happened, I was never happier.
To take a team that was down to the point where they hired you, for God's sake.
It's better, Jay.
I'm getting there.
Right.
And turn them into a playoff team in 1983 with the Chicago White Sox.
There it is.
Here's the pitch to Baines. Swinging a fly ball. This will be it. Center fielder's got it. Cruz is tagged. Here's the throw. Not in time. Stop win. The White Sox have won the 1983 American League Western Division title on a sacrifice fly by Harold Baines in the 9th inning.
That's the night we clinched it.
And as so often happens, you get there and you try to maintain, but you never did it again. And then you're fired. What's that like to hear? What you did in 1986?
Well, it was somebody telling you you're out of the family, you know, you're not worthy. At that time, it was Elaine, Bianca, and Devin.
Wife and 2 daughters.
In fact, got the job in '79. Elaine was pregnant with Bianca. Got the job in August. She delivered in September. So that was it, '79, '82, we had Devin. So we grew up as a family as Chicago White Sox. And what I'm telling you about, I mean, I don't want to beat this in, please, I hope I'm not boring you with this, but this respect and trust, this was organization-wide. So we were all close. So when, you know, Hawk says you're gone, I mean, it was shattering to us because, like, you're being exiled from the family.
Hawk Harrelson.
Ken Harrelson, yeah, he was the general manager at the time. So very, very emotional for all of us. But like everything else, you know, sometimes you end up better. And as Jerry says, ended up going to the Oakland A's, and they had this ready-made juggernaut that I walked into.
So you get hired by the A's, but you've been kicked out of the family, so to speak, with the White Sox. Are you a little different going into the A's situation after being kicked out of the family? Are you a little more hesitant to kind of go all in?
I was like a bull ready to charge because I got fired, and the firing comment was made that I wasn't a good teacher. And that really stung. Because one of the things that, as a staff, and maybe, I don't know if it was personal to me or personal to our staff, in either case, it really stung. Because one of the things you realize, it was true in the 80s, been true ever since, that players are rushed so fast, there's more instruction goes on now. You know, they don't have the 5 or 6 years like in the minor leagues. So to be called not a good teacher was really a personal affront. So I remember being very motivated to prove that I could manage, that our staff was good, and we could teach. And every time I got a little lax, I just looked at that chip and boom, let's go.
That team was loaded, and not to take anything away from what you brought there, because you brought it together, but I mean, you start listing the names that were a part of those A's teams. That was a loaded organization, and it got better as you went.
Got there in June of '86. Jose Canseco was going to be the Rookie of the Year. 1987 was Mark McGwire. 1988 was Walt Weiss. Now, on top of that, you had Dave Stewart, who they had picked up as a release player. He wins 24 years in a row. We trade for Dennis Eckersley, Rick Honeycutt, Bob Welsh. I mean, it was literally, don't get upset at me. The way you managed that team was, I tell you what, the game starts at 7 o'clock and we're playing against Cleveland. And you sit there and go 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits a dollar, go for, you know, I mean, just shake hands and the game was over. It was such a good team.
How did you deal with pressure and what you taught your players, what you dealt with it as a player yourself, as a manager, and what you tried to instill in your players during that time?
So for years, we've talked about understanding that if you want to play for the A's or the Cardinals, we expect to be in contention in the last couple weeks. And to make that happen, you're going to take at-bats, make pitches where pressure is on you to beat your competitor. And instead of just saying we expect you to be pressure, embrace the pressure kind of people, we had a 3-part test that we taught. And one of the points that we had talked about, you and I, that one reason baseball is different from other sports is you can't call plays. See, basketball and football, you get down to the last play, and maybe you want to throw it, Montana wants to throw it to Rice. You know, maybe Brady wants to throw it to Gronk. Or in basketball, maybe you call a play for Magic or Jerry West. In baseball, the lineup comes around. So now it's the 9th inning, and whoever goes to bat could be the guy that has the at-bat to win or lose a game. So what we taught everybody to be the go-to. And without going into, you know, great lengths, because you could describe it for a while, it's preparation. The more you prepare, the better suited you are, more armed you are to be successful under pressure. The more you feel it, the number of times, we really try to encourage, feel the pressure, feel the pressure. More times you feel it, you start to learn about yourself. This is when I respond. Some guys are real tentative. I don't want to make a mistake, and they can't pull the trigger. Other guys get so excited, they swing at anything. So you breathe. If you got to slow down, you kick yourself a number of times. And the last one, which is the golden one, is whenever you're doing the thing, you got to tune the distractions out about what the result's going to be, because that just distracts you from your process. How do you catch your ground ball? How do you make a pitch? So in the end, I think one of the strong things we had is we had a bunch of go-to guys, and pressure has been a big asset for all our teams.
1988 rolls around. Talk about who comes up in the key situation. The one thing that baseball has, though, is that thing called a pinch hitter. And the Dodgers had a gimpy guy by the name of Kirk Gibson against Mr. Automatic, Dennis Eckersley. This is at Dodger Stadium, and here's what happened.
Tony La Russa is 1 out away from win number 1. High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Yeah. You may not have won that game, but you could have run out the home plate better than Tommy Lasorda. Can you describe what a loss like that is? Because that year, Dennis Eckersley, he was virtually unhittable. And now here's Gibson, who can barely walk, coming up there and hitting a home run. I mean, punch to the gut, what's that like?
I'll tell you how I've felt over years through all the pain. This is a game of competitors. If you got great competitors, if you do your very best and you get beat, you tip your cap. If some yahoo had gotten that home run who we didn't respect, was really some guy that didn't deserve the greatness of that moment, it would hurt even worse. But the fact is, Eck is a great competitor and Gibby was a great competitor. So you had these two great competitors and Gibby won it. And he won it, by the way, by fouling off pitches on one leg. It was one of the great at-bats of all time through adversity. So it helps to ease the pain. The problem was that we had the better team and they were hurt. But it was conspired because they had a tough time beating the Mets and they had to use Hershiser. Hershiser pitched game 2, and he was having the magical year. So now we're down 2. And to lose in 5 games, it was very disappointing, but it really set the stage for the next spring. It was the easiest first meeting ever. And
you're talking about in spring training, you guys show up, you come off this loss to a lesser team, the Dodgers, you show up, you have to give your welcome to spring training, State of the Union, and you were looking at faces that were ready to hear it.
And every year you look for a hook, something that will get their attention, and that was easy. It was MISSION. Fellas, we are on a mission. I'm always looking around, and those guys, they were just nodding. Yeah, we're going to be 162. We're going to get back, and we will not be denied. So it was a wonderful year because we had a lot of problems with injuries, but it was a great team that was absolutely determined to do it.
You have this team that gets you to the postseason. There you are in the World Series, and this happens.
Game 3 of the 1989 World Series, the Oakland Athletics against the San Francisco Giants. I'm Al Michaels. Welcome to Game 3. It's been dominant Oakland pitching, of course, in the first 2 games.
Flash forward to the bottom of the 4th inning. Dave Parker barely, by inches, just misses a home run, allowing Jose Canseco to score. So the Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an
Now, this was obviously a tragic day in the Bay Area with many lives lost. What was it like down on the field when this stadium is shaking the way it was shaking?
So I'm sitting in the dugout, and we have some guys, we're all about 6-7 minutes away from introductions. Some guys playing catch, other guys doing a little running. I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I hear this noise. And, if you stamp your foot on the floor, roof of the dugout, it's irritating. And they would do it all the time. So this noise, I thought, oh my God. And I had warned our guys in our meeting. I said, fellas, this is going to be loud. We're going to have to really insulate ourselves because, they're going to be coming after us, not just on the field, but off the field. And then I looked out and I saw the flagpole going, whoa. I said, wait a minute. And then pretty soon it was the earthquake, and then it got really scary.
It was scary. And I remember the pictures from the players on the field getting their family down and kids crying and wives crying. I mean, this was, for a minute there, it was kind of touch and go, was it not?
It was one of the most confusing. I don't think I've ever been as confused about sorting through impressions and what's right and wrong. And, because you're the leader, and guys are looking at, hey, what? And, well, we're up 2-0, we're ready to go, and we're not going. But wait a minute, there's death and destruction in our area, so let's be cool with our 2-0 lead. And that was our message, really. Fellas, look, privately, we're going to keep ourselves ready, and it'll be a challenge for us. But publicly, nobody's going to make a statement, oh, can this happen to us? So we were very careful. But, I mean, it was reality bites. What we do is entertainment, right? It's just a sport, it's just a game. People are entertained by the winning and losing, but that was real life showing us how small and insignificant our little game is.
9-day layoff, you pick it back up. Let's give it a look.
A's trying to sweep, but the Giants have certainly not made life easy for them tonight. It's a ground ball to the right side, speared by Phillips, flips to Eckersley. Yes, he's there in time, and the A's are the world champions. The A's, the world champs, and the deserved world champs.
What a moment. It all came together right there.
Well, it's, you know, I remember, you know, my dad and my mom, you know, they would always preach to my sister and I, you know, dream the big dream. Dream the big dream. And, you know, so whatever it was, you know, be a doctor. In our case, my case was be a ball player. Well, if you dream it, I want to play in the World Series. I want to get the hit that wins the World Series like Joe Carter or Luis Gonzalez, Edgar Renteria. And they would always tell me, you know, I'll tell you why you got to dream it, because sometimes it comes true. I've never forgotten that. And sometimes it comes true, and that was a dream come true. I wasn't a player, I was just there. But you feel, like we talked about, to take a team with the White Sox into the playoffs is something, but to get to where you're the last team standing, win a world championship. But this one here was a tribute to a great team who took that mission idea and peaked at that moment. We could have played it against anybody.
The next year, you guys were pointed in the right direction. It all came together.
We had a thing that we always watched to see whether we were getting too big for our britches. In fact, we had a T-shirt that if you walked around really kind of scoping yourself out, you had to wear this T-shirt, and the front says, "Dig me." On the back it said, "Like I dig myself." And we got to the World Series, and I'm watching, and I'm thinking, man, you know, we walked there for the workout like, hey, we're the Oakland A's. And I said, hey, Cincinnati, how you doing? But, you know, you're just in our way. And Cincinnati was going at it. So I had a distinct impression. I said, man, you know, I don't know that we're ready to compete.
And Myers bringing it. And the pitch is hit in the air. Foul off first. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds have done the absolute improbable by defeating the club considered to be the best in Major League Baseball, and they've done it in a 4-game series sweep.
I never knew what I could say that would have been different from what I said until about 3 years ago. They talked about Lombardi when they won 2, that at the training camp for 3, he came out there and right away he said, we have a chance to make history. And he just, you know, like we talked about mission, he just told those guys, insisted we can make history. He just, it's history, history. And they went out and won 3 in a row. And I went, son of a gun, that might have done it. I should have gone in front of that team and said, winning 2 in a row, you could be part of history. And I regret very dearly that I didn't. I think I could have really, we made, I don't want to take over from Cincinnati, but maybe they'd beat us in 7. They wouldn't have beat us 4 in a row.
Who'd you manage against with the Cincinnati
Lou Piniella.
Reds? Lou Piniella. There he is. The kid from Tampa.
Yeah, whenever I see Lou, he goes around, hey, you got that one? No, I ain't got that one.
And as you look back on it, this is the late 80s. We're getting into the whole steroid era. Jose Canseco came out after, years later, and admitted steroid use. Mark McGwire the same. Does that dampen what you experienced back in 1989, knowing that certain guys in your lineup were chemically enhanced, or how do you look back on that time?
No, it's a little bit like the same answer about the earthquake. It's very confusing. You try to sort things out. I think as we move forward, how I sort it all through is that it became a black mark for our game. The guys on our club that did it, we were playing against other guys that did it. And here's one of the problems when you try to explain something. It sounds like you're making excuses. So a lot of times, rather than make excuses, you just say, hey, man, think whatever you want to. But it's unfortunate because I think that an explanation can be really helpful. To me, the 2 most telltale things that, whether it's our players or others, if you got really stronger quickly, it's not possible. If you got stronger without working, not possible. And that was happening. So what did we do about it? And I said this before. We sent it upstairs sent it to MLB, and MLB attacked it. And I would love to dispute this with a member of the association. The Player Association at that time blocked every early move to let's put an end to this. And they would say, right of privacy, collective bargaining. They thought it was in their members' behalf to ignore the problem. So back in those days, I don't have any regrets about not earning that. It was just a great, great team.
1996, you go to St. Louis. Things unraveled in Oakland. You had your resume. That's the year Joe Torre goes to the Yankees. I mean, there were opportunities for you out there. Why St. Louis?
I'd been to St. Louis and seen, you know, the rabid fans and the love of their team, and Walt Jocketty was there.
I mean, you just, the year before, been installed as general manager.
Right.
You knew him from Oakland.
That's right.
You trusted him. You have success right away in 96. You're a game away from going to the World Series. You're there year after year after year. 2002 is the summer that the leader of your pitching staff, Darryl Kile, dies in his hotel room before a game at Wrigley Field.
The background on that, by the way, is almost savage. Augie Cueto, who was my godfather, he passed away. Shortly thereafter, my dad passed away, all in 2002. And then one of the loves of my life, your dad, passed away. So I'm thinking, oh man, this is just a terrible year. But we were playing very competitively, you know, and all of a sudden, you can't describe Darryl Kile properly. If you can imagine the very best teammate that you can have, and by teammate, because we've already talked tonight, we're talking about family. Darryl Kile was the leader of the pitching staff, the guy who wanted to be the #1 starter, show the most competitiveness, and when he didn't pitch, do all the work that shows the other 4 stars what you need to do, cheerlead, be there for the young guys, help the old guys. You know, every year has its own, but that one there was so distinctly different because that was totally an emotional, personal challenge for everybody in uniform. This is eerie. Darryl's number is 57. From the day he died to the end of the season, we won 57 games. So,
wow.
So I'll give you a PS. We win the division. We play the Arizona Diamondbacks, who the year before we had played in the first round, a great 5-game series. They'd beaten us, and they beat the Yankees. They're the world champions. And we beat them 3 straight. So now we're playing the Giants. Now I'm absolutely convinced I'm in love with this team, you know, because, you know, the way they were just so caring and they had come together. So I was absolutely convinced that destiny was on our side. And we beat the world champions 3, and we're playing against the Giants. They beat us 2 at home, we won 1, and then we were down 3-1. And I know we're going to win the 5th game, come home, because it had been so hard. When we lost the 5th game, and we've ended up losing 3 World Series and a bunch of championship series. The most heartbroken I've ever felt was losing that game, because I felt like this team had deserved to win. I knew we were going to do it, and we were going to play as it turned out the Angels. And I remember sitting there thinking, you know, this isn't right. This is, you know, that's not wrong. And I ended up saying something stupid to Bill and Walt. I said, well, you got the wrong guy managing this club. You got to get somebody else. You know, I was ready to toss it in, and they said, well, you're probably right. So.
Yeah. We have this quote up on the wall here. Even when you have 3 strikes, you're still not out. There's always something else you can do. It's easy for us to put this quote up on the wall. It's easy for me to act like I think I know what it means. What does that quote mean to you?
That particular one comes from one of the 100 greatest generals in the history of the world. His name is General Harold Moore. And he said, his quote was, if you read his leadership things, never give up. There's always something else you can do. He called me one time. He says, I'm writing something down. I want to see what you said. And he sent me a message. And he said, even when there's 3 strikes, you're still not out. So he amended his, there's always something else you can do. Never give in, never give up. And he made it a baseball analogy. So that's General Moore's, which is beautiful, which means, thank you. Oh, I mean, you got to take this the right way in a macho way, but he's like, if I saw him, I want to kiss him in the lips. I love him so much, you know. I do that to Red Cheney's too. Oh, I told you, you don't do that.
You also do that. You also do that to your 9 dogs.
Yeah, well, that's true. And what this talks about is frame of mind, because talent is talent, but the teams are successful. The individuals are successful. They're successful here, translates to here, and to here. So I love it because you can coach that, and if people commit to it, it's like adding a superstar to your team.
I want to get into 2006 here. You still haven't won. You know, you still haven't won the World Series, and I know the pressure that comes with that. Did you feel that way, or was that just the perception by others?
You got to understand, this is St. Louis Cardinals, and with their rich history, you're reminded of it all the time. You have this burden to carry the flag forward, and what's going on? Because we would get to the championship series and get beat. 96, 2000, 2002. They were looking at you like, you know, it isn't what you've done, it's what you haven't done. And I remember Gibby was saying, you know, there's a club here, and if you want to be in the club, you got to be part of a world champion.
For the first time since 1982, St. Louis has a World Series winner. And for those who don't know, you slayed a lot of demons that night, I think.
You win it, and the first thing I thought about, I'm in the St. Louis Cardinal World Champion Club. And sure enough, Gibby comes by, he says, let me shake your hand, man, you're in the club, I swear. And if you understand the history there and the responsibility you feel to satisfy those wonderful fans, and it was a hellacious, wonderful night that can't describe.
Yeah, and so now more success. And then you get to 2011, your final year. And man, you guys put on a charge. And you put on a charge through the month of September.
We were 10.5 back with 32 to play. I'll make 2 points that I think are interesting. I hope you think they are too. One of them is that the dedication, the term that our team used to get back to the last 32, they made a commitment that they were going to play each of the 32 like it's the last game of their life or the 7th game of the World Series. And I'm going to tell you, if you want to coach something or whatever you're interested in doing, it's important to you. Urgency is a magical concept. If you feel that urgency, it unleashes adrenaline, focus, energy, you know, and you'll find strengths. And so when we really were facing it sometimes, hey, play it like it's the last game of your life. And you don't get tight, you just get focused. And our team for 32 games, and we made this miracle comeback. Point 2 was, part of this play it like it's the rest of the game of your life is you're gonna have some tough moments. So several times we were on the brink of getting beaten, and we got in the last day of the year. So several times it looked terrible, and our club hung in there and pulled it together, and we didn't lose. This will to win, it's real. I mean, it's like my favorite term that I've learned. You know what an intangible is? Will to win is an intangible. Chemistry, that family feeling. If it's so strong, you can see it and feel it. It's a tangible intangible. There is a tangible intangible, and you can see it, and we had it.
You get into postseason play on the last day. You have a tremendous run in the postseason. And I'm going to tell you, if you haven't watched the highlights of Game 6 of the World Series, it is not to be believed. I was there. And if you watch that game, Tony, unfold, I don't know if you have since, you can't believe it ends the way it does, because I have 5 different comebacks. I mean, it shouldn't happen. You shouldn't win that game. But you do. You told me the next night when we met with you in your office before the game what you told the team before Game 7, which was? As
luck would have it, in spring training one year, I sat at a table across from a guy named Mike Eruzione, Miracle on Ice, the captain. And sure enough, we start picking his brain, and he's telling us these stories about Miracle on Ice. And Mike described what Coach Brooks did after they beat Russia, but before they played Finland. So
because people believed, if you weren't around then, that was it.
Right.
But they still had to go play
right.
after the miracle on ice.
So we win Game 6, and the replays are coming, you know, ESPN, they're all playing them, and we'd all be looking at about 3:30. My wife looks at me, she says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just realized that if we don't win Game 7, this is not the same story." And like 2 minutes later, I tell her, "We got to go. I got it." And what I got was, I was going to do the Herb Brooks. Because what Herb Brooks told his team before they played Finland, he said, you know, you've beaten Russia, and I can't say it like he said, but I know the punchline. He says, if you lose to Finland, it will haunt you the rest of your life. The rest of your life, this game will haunt you. And then they went out to beat Finland. So I said, we got to find a way to get that haunt thing going.
Let's go to the video. Here's how it ended.
In the air to left, well hit. Back is Craig. What a team. What a ride. The Cardinals are world champs in 2011.
That was a Hall of Fame career. That was last pitch, last flyout, last celebration for you as a manager. And it took me by surprise, all of the drive, all of the hours. It's a big trade-off with Elaine, who you mentioned, your wife, your daughters, Bianca and Devin. The trade worth it?
It's a question I wish you hadn't asked. I tell you it would be worth it if I'd have been smarter earlier. I mentioned that our two daughters were born just when I started this job. I was a lousy player, no managing, hanging on like this. So I'd go to the park too early. I'd stay too late. But even worse, when I was home, I'd be thinking about the job 24/7. And I have tremendous regrets that when the kids were growing up, you know, all of a sudden my wife, hey, you get back, you know, this is our time, this is theirs. So I made mistakes that I am not proud of, and as I got more experience, I learned better about, hey, put the game aside, you can only do so much. But by then, you know, I had to work hard to regain, you know, their attention and show them the place they have in my life. And I think they forgive me. I've never forgiven myself for being so stupid early. I do believe that this is a very common situation where whether it's the woman or the man of the house, if your job is demanding and you're away, it puts a very special burden on the other spouse, especially with children. I don't think you can ever acknowledge enough, like in my case, if at any point the three of them say, hey, that's enough, it's all about us, you know, I wouldn't have the ring and I wouldn't be in there. And the reason that I did was because of them. And I wish I could turn the clock back and not have shown them more when I should have. But I didn't, and I have regrets.
And now as you turn the clock forward, Arizona, you're back in it in a different capacity, up top looking down. You enjoying the front office of a big league club?
I enjoyed it today. We got a walk-off hit in the 10th. Hallelujah, got beat yesterday. You know, wanted to vomit. The worst part is once that game starts, you are absolutely helpless. When you're at least in the dugout, you know, you can make a decision, you can make a comment, but up there, you're just, oh no, I mean, it is torture.
Now you know how we feel. Doesn't matter the team you root for. That's where we are. What's next for you?
Philadelphia tomorrow night. Just win the first game of that series.
Man, you have not changed at all.
You know, I just, here again, you know, you got a dream and you got to change your dream. And this is personal, but I want to include the Arizona Diamondback organization. I want to be part of a front office that helps bring a world champion, the second world champion in Arizona. So that's the dream, and you just, it's out there, and you just step by step try to accomplish it.
No time on the beach with your gnarly toes in the sand and sipping Chardonnay somewhere? When do you get a chance to just take a break?
You know, my break, and I don't know if you're going to mention it. I'm going to mention in case it gets, because I need the free publicity. Once the season was over, 25 years ago, Elaine and I started something called the Animal Rescue Foundation, ARF, in the Bay Area. We're 25 years old now. So there it is. The off season is called the ARF season. So my getaway is inspired by, we do things to find homes for companion animals and not kill them. And but the other part is that I'm very proud. We're very proud of. We do things where the animals help people in need, whether it's victims of violence, whether it's hospitalized seniors, and our most recent efforts have been with the veterans coming back. The magic of a companion animal. We're up to about 200 placed. So ARF is an inspiration, and it's one of the best things our family's ever done. Thank you.
All right, you ready to have some fun? This is how we end it. 5 questions I've never seen.
This pressure I'm not embracing.
Make love to this pressure.
You gotta tell them that story.
After you leave. Would you rather do dishes or laundry?
I'd rather do dishes. Laundry is hot, and then it takes you longer.
Takes you long. Not a good folder?
Huh?
Are we not a good folder in the La Russa family?
No. If all I had to do was fold, then I would try to figure what's quicker, folding or dishes. I'm talking about put it in the washer, take a thing, and you gotta dry it, and you gotta sit around. No, it's too long.
Okay.
That's a good question. I've never been asked that one before, Joe.
Would you rather go to a 6-hour opera or a 6-hour ballet recital? 6 hours. I don't care what it is.
Okay, so I think, you know, kind of a cute, witty one would be that it'd be easier to take a nap in a ballet than it would in an opera.
Would you rather be stuck in a home that is constantly light or constantly dark?
These are brilliant, man. This is really good. Light or dark? I think I'd take the light. I'm not sure I can explain why, but, you know, dark is like you can't see. You know, light, I mean, can't you go like this? I'd take the light.
Take the light. Finally.
Thank goodness.
Would you rather have a shark fin on your back or a long tail?
Oh, I mean, since you're supposed to pretend you're a macho man, I'd rather be a shark than a little tail wagging.
I hope that over the last X number of minutes, we've all gotten a better understanding of why Tony La Russa has been as successful as he has been. Somebody who was a really gifted athlete, despite what he says and his little cackle, to somebody who is a Hall of Fame manager. And it's been an honor to know you over the years, and it's really been my honor to have you here tonight. Thank you, Tony La Russa.